Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services, a premier institution for preparing for civil services in India. Today, I am here for a daily news and editorial analysis for 27th and 28th of March 2024. And this editorial analysis is going to be important for all three stages of UPSC, which are UPSC prelims, mains and interview process. And apart from UPSC exams, this editorial analysis is going to be important for all the government exams in India. So without further delay, let us begin the analysis.
The Election Commission has announced a new initiative for the elderly and specially abled voters, where they can now cast a vote from the comfort of their home.
This comes as a relief for a lot of voters who would find it difficult to head to the polling booth on the day of voting. But how does this process work?
Today's first news of analysis is going to be very important for the UPSC prelims perspective and also for the UPSC mains and all the government exams in India. And the first news for today is about the vote from home facility. Recently, the Election Commission of India allowed the vote from home facility for the 85 plus years old people in India and also for the 𝐕𝐵𝐴𝐺𝐻s in India. And for this reason, this news is important for the UPSC prelims perspective and also for the GS paper 2 of UPSC mains. And under GS paper 2, this topic caters to the syllabus, the constitutional bodies and electoral reforms. And in this topic, we are going to discuss about the details of the news. We'll discuss the voting reforms or the electoral reforms that has been taken so far in India, and then we'll discuss the proposed reforms for the electoral reforms in India or the reforms that has been suggested by the Election Commission of India, and lastly we'll discuss the previous year's question that has been asked from this topic. So let us begin the analysis. So as we just discussed, the context of the news is that recently the Election Commission of India has, for the first time in the history of Lok Sabha elections, extended the vote from home facility to the persons with disability and the senior citizens aged 85 and above. So the persons with disabilities who are the 𝐕𝐵𝐴𝐺𝐻s and also the persons who are above the 85 years of age will be allowed to vote from home. And this decision is very important because this was being demanded by people from many years, and for this reason this is a historic moment, and this facility allows the eligible voters to cast their ballots from the comfort of their homes. So the people who have been allowed to vote from home do not have to go to the polling booths or the polling stations for casting their votes. So they can cast their votes from home. So the Election Commission of India will send the ballot paper and the voting booth to the home of these people, and these people can cast their votes from home. So this provision is very important, and the eligible voters must submit the Form 12D to the Assistant Returning Officer. So this is important because the Form 12D relates to the vote from home. So in the exam you might be asked that the Form 12D recently seen in news relates to what, and your answer should be the vote from home process. So this type of question might be asked in UPSC prelims. And so far as the Election Commission of India is concerned, the Election Commission of India consists of 3 members. Chief Election Commissioner of India is the Rajiv Kumar currently, and the Election Commissioners of India are Gyanesh Kumar and the Sukhbir Singh Sandhu. So the Gyanesh Kumar and the Sukhbir Singh Sandhu are the Election Commissioner in India currently, and this type of question might be asked in various one-day exams in India, especially in SSC exams and other exams, that who is the current Election Commissioner of India or the present Chief Election Commissioner of India. And also you might be asked that who has been appointed recently as the Election Commissioner of India, because recently an Election Commissioner of India named Arun Goyal also resigned from this post because it is in the rumor that the Arun Goyal, who was the Election Commissioner of India, is going to contest the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. So for this reason, the Election Commission of India itself is important. And so far as the articles of the Election Commission of India is concerned, Article 324 to Article 326 relates to the Election Commission of India. So you have to remember the articles as well. And you can quote the articles in UPSC mains exam, and also the articles are directly asked in various one-day exams in India. So these are the context of the news so far as the vote from home is concerned. Now moving on to the important decisions taken by the Election Commission of India so far as the reforms in electoral reforms in India is concerned. The Election Commission of India has taken various reforms so far as the electoral process in India is concerned, and the reforms has been taken in various stages. The first reform was taken in 1966 based on the recommendation of Dinesh Goswami committee. So this committee is very important so far as the Election Commission of India is concerned, because in the exam, in the UPSC exam particularly, it has been asked previously that the Dinesh Goswami committee relates to what. So your answer should be the Election Commissioner of India or the electoral reforms in India. So based on the recommendation of Dinesh Goswami committee of 1990, the Election Commission of India brought about various reforms, and the first reform is the prohibition of sale of liquor. So the prohibition of sale of liquor is one of the important decision, and the sale of liquor as per this Election Commission of India rules is prohibited during the 48 hours ending with the hour fixed for in the conclusion of the polls. So after the conclusion of polls, the sale of liquor around the polling booths is prohibited even after ending of the polls. So within the end of the 48 hours after the polling, the sale of liquor is prohibited in the polling booths. And the second important decision taken by the Election Commission of India is the death of the candidate. So if the candidate who has filed the nomination dies before the election, then that election would not be put on hold. So the election process would continue even if the candidate or the person who has filed the nomination dies. So this is an important decision which was taken by Election Commission of India. And the time limit of by-elections has also been reduced to 6 months. So the by-elections which happens after the cancellation of elections by various reasons by Election Commission of India would have to be conducted within the 6 months of occurrence of vacancy. So if there is a vacancy in some region or some areas or for the some post of MPs, then that election would have to be conducted within the 6 month of the occurrence of the vacancy. And another important reform is related to the prohibition of arms. So as per this reform, if a person enters into the polling booth with the arms, then that offense would be considered the cognizable offense. So the cognizable offense means an offense where the police can arrest the person without the warrant of the magistrate. So person who does the crime can be arrested without the permission of the magistrate. So the offense related to the carrying of arms during the electoral process would be considered an cognizable offense. So this is another important reform, and most important reform is the effective campaigning period has been reduced from 20 to 40 days. So after the announcement of the date of announcement by the Election Commission of India, the model code of conduct comes into place, and after the beginning of the model code of conduct, the effective campaigning period starts, and within that period the people who have filed the nomination can campaign, and this campaigning period has been reduced from 20 to 14 days. So these are the important reforms that was taken by Election Commission of India during the 1996 based on the Dinesh Goswami committee's recommendation. Now moving on to other recommendations that was taken by the Election Commission of India after the 1996. So as we just discussed earlier, the electoral reform process in India was done in various stages, and the electoral process in India was also done after the 1996, and these are the important electoral reforms which were done after the 1996. The first important reform is related to the voting through the postal ballot. So the postal ballot system has also been introduced in India in 1999. And this postal ballot voting system has been provided only for the people who are notified by the Election Commission of India. So not all the people are eligible to vote through the postal ballot system. And second important reform is related to the facility to opt through the proxy system. So the proxy voting system has also been introduced in India. So proxy voting means the voting in India where the people can delegate their voting, or people can ask other people to vote on their behalf, has been introduced in India in 2003. And the proxy voting system in India is only allowed for the people who are the service voters. So service voters means the people who falls under the Army Act of 1954. So the armed forces people can vote using the proxy voting system. So this is an important, in UPSC it is asked that the proxy voting system in India is allowed for which class of citizens. So they are allowed for the people who falls under the Army Act. So this is an important point. And another reform is related to the changes in the Rajya Sabha election. So in 2003, the two changes were brought in the electoral process in India. The first one is removal of the domicile requirement, and second one is introducing open ballot system. So the domicile requirement in India has been removed for the elections to Rajya Sabha, because previously, before this reform, the people who are contesting the election for the Rajya Sabha should have been belonged from that particular state only. For instance, if a person wanted to election for the Rajya Sabha from Bihar, then he should have born in Bihar only. But after this reform, if a person wants to contest the election for Rajya Sabha from other state as well, they can contest the elections. So even if the person has born in other state, for instance in Jharkhand, and if he wants to contest the election in West Bengal, then he can contest the elections as per this reform. So this is an important reform so far as Rajya Sabha is concerned. And another important reform is introduction of open ballot system. So the open ballot system in India has been introduced as per this reform for the Rajya Sabha election, and free supply of electoral rolls etc. for the candidate of the recognized political party. So the candidates who falls under the recognized political parties in India are given the free electoral rolls in India. So the electoral rolls are only provided to the recognized political party candidates. Okay, so this is an important point. And another important reform is related to the Braille signage features in EVM. So in EVMs, the Braille signage has been provided for the Viklangs. So those people who cannot touch or who cannot read or write has been provided with the Braille signage in the EVMs. And this provision was introduced in 15th Lok Sabha election in 2009. So after the 15th Lok Sabha election, the Braille signage feature has been provided in EVMs. So these are the important reforms which were brought about by the Election Commission of India post 1996. Now moving on to other reforms which were taken by Election Commission of India post 2010. Even after the 2010, the Election Commission of India undertook various reforms in the electoral process in India, and the first important reform is voting rights to the citizens living abroad. So the people who are living abroad and the people who are the citizen of India are allowed to vote from abroad. So this reform is also important. And online enrollment of the electoral roll. So before this reform, the people who wants to list their names in the electoral roll should have filed their name in the offline process only. But now after this reform, the people who wants to file their name in the electoral rolls can file their names online. So the online electoral roll filing system has also been introduced, and introduction of nota option, which is none of the above option, has also been provided in electoral process. So none of the above options was provided to the people of India in the year 2013. So after 2013, the nota option was included in India. So this point is important, because in UPSC in 2017 there was a statement that the nota was introduced in 2013. So that statement is correct, because nota was introduced in 2013. So ऐसे आपको years याद रखना है कि कौन सी year में the nota introduce हुआ था और कौन सी year में VVPAT introduce हुआ था. So you have to remember these points so that you can answer all the options in UPSC using the options. So you need to know all the basic facts related to the general studies. And another important reform is VVPAT introduction. So the VVPAT, which is voter verifiable paper audit trail, was also introduced in India, and this VVPAT system was introduced for the first time in the 𝐷𝐸𝐾𝐻 assembly in the Nagaland. So this VVPAT system was for the first time introduced in 2013. So nota option and the VVPAT was introduced in the same year, and this VVPAT allows the people who are casting the vote to verify to whom they have voted for. So VVPAT basically shows the person who is casting vote that to whom they have filed the vote. So this is an important reform. and photos of the candidates on EVMs and the paper ballot. So the photos of the people who are contesting the elections are shown in the EVM machine. So this reform was also taken by Election Commission of India in 2015. And the linkage of voter ID with Aadhaar. So Aadhaar has been linked with the voter ID as per the Election Laws Amendment Act of 2021. So Election Commission of India amended the election laws in 2021, and the law was Election Laws Amendment Act of 2021. And as per this act, the voter ID is mandatory to be linked with the Aadhaar card. So this is an important reform. So these are the important reforms which were taken by the Election Commission of India so far as the electoral process in India is concerned. So now let us discuss about the important proposed reforms in the electoral process in India as recommended by various electoral reforms committees in India. So far as the proposed electoral reforms pertaining to voting in India is concerned, the first important reform is suggested for the allowance of NRI voting. So non-resident of India, so far as India is concerned, cannot vote in India. So non-resident of Indians do not have the voting rights in India. So the various committees, for instance, the Tarkunde Committee of 1974, Indrajit Gupta Committee of 1998, the Election Commission of India Report 2004, Law Commission of India Report 1999, Dinesh Goswami Committee of 1990, etc. proposed for allowing the NRI voting in India. So non-resident of India vote has been proposed to be allowed for voting in India. So the NRI, which are more than 10 million in numbers, so more than 10 million non-resident of India are living abroad. So India should allow the NRI voting as per these committees. And the common electoral rules at the elections conducted by the Election Commission and the state election commissioners. So as per the current electoral process in India, two electoral rules are maintained. First one is maintained for the central election, which is for the election to the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and second electoral rule is maintained for the state elections, which are the legislative assembly elections and also the panchayat elections and the municipality elections. These committees have recommended that there should be only one electoral roll in India. So this is also another proposed reform so far as the electoral process in India is concerned. And another one is proxy voting for delegating their voting power to the nominee to enable voting on his or her behalf in their absence. So as we just discussed, the proxy voting system in India is allowed only for the service voters, which are the army persons. But now the Election Commission of India is proposing to allow the proxy voting system to the other person as well. So the proxy voting might be allowed for other people as well in the future. And last important reform which is proposed for the electoral reform in India is related to the e-voting. So e-voting means the electronic voting system. So the voting system which is being done through the electronic process, for instance through the mobile phones or the laptops or the computers, etc. So the e-voting system is also being proposed by these committees. So if the e-voting system in India is introduced, there will be no need of establishing the large number of the electoral votes in India. So the e-voting system would reduce the cost of conducting elections in India. So for this reason, the e-voting system is very important reform that is to be taken by the Election Commission of India. So these are the important proposed reforms pertaining to the voting system in India, and these are the important committees so far as the electoral process in India is concerned. Exam में ये पूछा जाता है कि consider the following committees and which of the following committees relates to the electoral reform in India. So you have to remember that these committees, for instance, the Tarkunde Committee of 1974, the Indrajit Gupta Committee of 1998, Dinesh Goswami Committee of 1990, Law Commission of India Report 1999, Veerappa Moily Commission of 2007. This is also called the ARC. So this is also called second ARC. Second ARC means the Administrative Reforms Commission. So this second Administrative Reforms Commission was headed by the Veerappa Moily, and this committee also recommended for the electoral reform in India. And the Vora Committee of 1993. So this Vora committee also relates to the Election Commission of India or the electoral reform in India, and the Venkanta Chalaya committee. So these are all committees which related to the electoral reform in India, or these committees are the committees which recommended for electoral reforms in India. Now moving on to the UPSC PYQ, which was asked from the similar topic is concerned. UPSC in 2017 asked this question related to the electoral process in India, and the question is, consider the following statements. Statement 1 is, in the election of Lok Sabha or state assembly, the winning candidate must get at least 50% of the votes polled to be declared election. So as per the statement, the winning candidate must secure 50% of the votes polled. So is this correct? This is not correct, because India follows the first past the post system, which is the first past the post system. So as per this system, the person or the candidate who gets the majority vote, not only the 50% plus 1, but the person who gets the highest percentage of vote in a state will be declared the winner candidate. So even if a person gets only 25%, but if he has the highest percentage of vote in a state, then he will be declared the winner in the election. So India follows the first past the post system in so far as the Lok Sabha or state assembly is concerned. So this is the reason why the various candidates who are getting less than 30% of votes are also getting elected to the Lok Sabha. Okay? So there was controversy as well recently, because the ruling party, which is the BJP or the National Democratic Alliance, won the election despite they got less than 40% of the total votes, because National Democratic Alliance had got votes based on the first past the post system. That means if there are 4 candidates, so candidates A, B, C, D. If A gets 25%, B gets 25%, C gets 36%, and D gets 14%, then the winner would be C. So C wins the election. So India is the country where there is first past the post system, and winner is not decided based on the 50% plus 1 vote, but it is decided based on the majority of percentage of votes he gets in particular region. So this is an important point that you need to know, and you also need to know about the first past the post system, which is applicable in the Lok Sabha elections and the state legislative assembly election. And the second statement is, according to the provisions laid down by the Constitution of India, the speaker's post goes to the majority party and the deputy speaker's post to the opposition. So this statement is correct, but this statement is not laid down in the Constitution of India. So UPSC basically wanted to confuse the students in this point. So this process is not laid down in the Constitution of India. So this type of question is asked in UPSC. So you need to know this type of question. Now moving on to next question of UPSC, which was asked in past years. So this is another UPSC question which was asked in UPSC 2020, and this question also relates to the electoral process in India. And the question is, according to the Constitution of India, a person who is eligible to vote can be made minister in a state for 6 months even if he or she is not a member of legislature of the state. This is statement 1, and statement 2 is, according to the Representation of People's Act 1951, a person convicted of criminal offence and sentenced to imprisonment for 5 years is permanently disqualified from contesting an election even after his release from the prison. Which of the statements given above are correct? So this is a conceptual question which was asked by UPSC in 2020. So comment the answer of this question in the comment section, and also comment the reason for your answer. So now moving on to next topic of discussion for today. Recently, ISRO launched the Pushpak, which is reusable launch vehicle. And in this context, this news is important for UPSC prelims perspective. And you can see the picture of Pushpak reusable launch vehicle. So this is the Pushpak reusable launch vehicle, and so far as the Pushpak is concerned, the Pushpak is first reusable launch vehicle. So this is India's first reusable launch vehicle, and the Pushpak RLB project was initiated in 2012. So this is important. You have to know the year when this project was initiated, and this is the India's first reusable launch vehicle, and this is aimed at reducing the cost of payload delivery. So the cost of delivering the payload to the space would be reduced from $20,000 per kg to the $4,000 per kg. So this is a significant reduction in the cost of delivery of the payload to the space. So this feat will be achieved using this reusable launch vehicle, because using this RLB vehicles, the payload delivery system can be reused again. And this Pushpak has been designed as all rocket fully reusable single stage to orbit system vehicle. So this is an SSTO system, and this rocket uses the scramjet engine. So scramjet engine, which is basically a air breathing engine. So the scramjet engine basically uses the air for combustion of fuels, has been used in this Pushpak device. So these are the important facts that you need to know about the Pushpak reusable launch vehicle. Now let us discuss about the scramjet engine and its types. So scramjet engine is basically an air breathing engine, as we just discussed, because the scramjet engine uses the incoming air or the oxygen to combust the fuel. And there are basically three types of air breathing engine. The first one is ramjet. So ramjet is basically an air breathing engine that works most efficiently at the supersonic speeds. So ramjet basically works at the supersonic speed, and they are not efficient at hypersonic speeds. So you have to remember this point. And the basic difference between the ramjet and the scramjet is that ramjet works in supersonic speed and scramjet works in hypersonic speeds. So this is a major difference between these two. And there is third type of engine, which is called the dual mode ramjet engine, which is DMRJ. So dual mode ramjet engine uses both type of engine, which is the ramjet and scramjet. In the dual mode ramjet system, the engine basically works as the ramjet in the initial stage, and after certain stage the engine turns into scramjet. So this is the schematic of the air breathing engine. So you can see the inlet air, the air comes inside and it is compressed, and the combustion takes place, and exhaust air goes here, and this combusted air turns the engine. So this is how the air breathing engine works. So these were the important facts about the air breathing engine. Now moving on to next topic of discussion for today.
ये लो मीटर को देखते हैं, यहाँ पे जो रीडिंग हुआ है, इसके बाद रीडिंग का बिल निकला, देन हम टैक्स कलेक्ट करेंगे कंज्यूमर के पास.
These women are working tirelessly in the summer heat of Odisha to achieve the piped drinking water supply in the capital city of Bhubaneswar. They are helping the state government in its drink from tap mission and are thus rightfully called Jal Sathis, which literally translates to friends of water. In a country where drinking water availability is reducing rapidly, the state government of Odisha is trying to make it more accessible. This story is about people who are making this mission work flawlessly by making sure that there's enough water, that it's been treated properly and is accessible to everyone regardless of their socio-economic backgrounds. In August 2019, the government of Odisha started the Drink from Tap mission, initiated by the Water Corporation of Odisha, or WATCO. They aim to achieve universal coverage of piped drinking water supply in urban areas.
Recently, Odisha's drink from tap mission was in news, and for this reason, this topic is important for UPSC mains particularly. You can quote this case study in your UPSC answer writing, and you can also quote these data and facts in your UPSC answer. And this topic is also important for UPSC prelims, because in UPSC prelims as well, you might be asked the question that the drink from tap mission, which was recently seen in news, belongs from which state or was initiated by which state. And so far as Odisha's drink from tap mission is concerned, this mission was started by Odisha government in 2017, and this makes Odisha first and only state in India to ensure drinking water quality on household tap connections in India. So this is a very important news, and this initiative is aimed to transform urban drinking water supply, combat waterborne diseases, and to relieve the financial strain of the people in Odisha. So this mission is basically aimed for the people in urban areas in Odisha. Okay, so you have to remember this point, that the Odisha's drink from tap mission is not for the rural people but for the urban people, and this mission aims to provide 24/7 access to high quality drinking water directly from taps, cutting cost and time, eliminating filtration and boiling needs. So the high quality water would be provided to the people of Odisha who are living in urban areas with this mission. And another important fact about this mission is that the women is being involved actively in this mission. So women is being involved in this mission for behavioral change campaign in Odisha. So these are the important facts about the Odisha's drink from tap mission. And the government of Odisha has started various initiatives so far as the urban development and providing drinking water connections in the urban areas is concerned. So for this reason, news about Odisha is very important, and the initiatives taken by Odisha government is important. And this topic was also the last topic of discussion for today's daily news and editorial analysis. And today as well, I have come up with an important quote of the day for you. Now let us look at the quote that I have got for you. The quote of the day for today is, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but rising every time we fall." So this is very important for all the government job aspirants and the UPSC aspirants in India, because the failure is part of their life, and they must come out of the fear of failure in their life. And the fear of failure should not resist the candidates from continuing their journey. So for this reason, candidates and aspirants must continue their journey despite the failures. So with that quote, I am concluding today's session. We'll meet again in the next video. Till then, take care.